Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a great episode for you tonight. Conspiracy theories, your conspiracy theories, the ones that you have submitted here over the past several days. I'm Mike Ricksecker, author and ghost historian. With me, as always, is Vanessa Hogel, my co-host, with our lovely chat shenanigator, Shauna, down in the chat room. You might hear it a little bit. Right now, it is pouring rain at Vanessa's. So...
Yes. So the weather gods have conspired to possibly make it to where I can't finish this broadcast, okay?
Right as we're about to start, too. Like within a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Yep.
So
it's a conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy. Weather gods are conspiring. So we will do the best that we can here. And hopefully Vanessa will be able to maintain her connection, which is kind of funny, Vanessa, because the whole concern leading up to today was my connection, being in the new studio and the whole setup, the way I've had to do everything out here. And lo and behold, it's your connection that might be the problem tonight.
Totally mine. It's all mine. Yeah, and it's weird because my screen is Mother Trucker.
Oh,
Did you hear that?
I heard that.
Wow. Yeah, my whole screen's flashing at me. I can't tell what it looks like for everybody else. I just know for me, we are a blur.
It's you're a little pixelated. We can hear you, so we'll just run with it. They're telling me
good. Sounds good.
They're telling me my volume is low. So let's see. Yeah. There's Windows again, screwing with my volume. Why does it do this?
See. Conspiring right
there. Yep, there it is. Yep, Windows does this auto leveling garbage, and there we go. Okay, so we should be good. Let me bring up Periscope, which we are simulcasting on.
Motherfucker!
That was pretty loud.
That scared me.
That was pretty loud.
Yeah.
Just be careful. Don't get electrocuted through your. Don't get electrocuted through your computer or anything like that.
That would suck.
That would.
Yeah. That would suck ass.
All right. So right now, Diane Hilbert is saying we both look and sound good on her end. So I fixed the volume here. Thank you, Windows. And simulcasting on Periscope.
Diane, just say that to all.
Yeah. And we are also simulcasting. Nice. We're also simulcasting on Beyond the Light Network. Thank you, Chuck Banks. So some of you are listening on Spreaker, which is great. So, and they hear your thunder out there. So let's go ahead and get into it. I don't think we have any real housekeeping to do at the beginning here, other than White Rabbit Notification Squad. You guys know the deal. Go ahead and share it out on all your social media so that those who did not get the notification know that we are now live. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right, so your conspiracy theories, the ones that you guys submitted, we put them in a hat so that we don't have to worry about, picking whoever's first and, people saying, oh, your favorite, like, Chuck Banks winning the last thing, the 7,000 subscriber. So, all right. So this is the winner here, and we'll come back and we'll get more stuff out of the hat as we go along. So let's see what we are talking about first this evening. First conspiracy up is chemtrails and contrails. So we can hit on that a little bit. I mean the conspiracy.
Interesting.
Yeah, the conspiracy here is that. Yeah, the conspiracy here is that. When planes are going through the air and you see those big, long contrails, the ones that stick around for a long time are some sort of chemical that they've launched into the air to either poison us or control the weather. So I've never actually been a big believer of that one because I've seen, the photos from like, World War II where they've got the long contrails and all that. But a lot of people do subscribe to this. Over the last, I don't know, maybe like 20 years, it's kind of been a big deal. So, I mean, maybe you guys can talk about it a little in their chat. What's that?
Mm-hmm. I will tell you this. I spent about 10 or 11 days in England, or about 9 days in England, about 10 days in Ireland, and was up in Scotland for a few days. And I don't recall, and I'm not saying they don't exist over there, but I don't recall seeing one.
Really?
Not one. And over here, you can't walk outside.
Well, yeah.
And there are times, and this is a very interesting thing, though. This is something that you need to know. Here in Norman, Oklahoma, and I'm not saying that I believe it or disbelieve it. I'm just saying that it is a good topic of conversation because I live over by the mall in Norman, Oklahoma, and we have a very minor, very small airport miles away, and then a much larger one many, many, many miles away. But all the time above us, above where I live, and right here in this particular area of Norman, they are constant, yet you never hear any planes. How is that possible?
Interesting.
And they're low. They're lower to the ground than what you would expect from a commercial airline or from anything like that,
Well, but are they commercial airlines that come out of there, or are they smaller private planes?
They're smaller private planes, but in the entire time I have lived in this apartment, which is over 2 years, I'm going on my 3rd year now, I have never, not one time, seen a small airplane over here.
Interesting.
They're over back where I used to live, because I used to live right by the little airport, the little bitty one. But I never see them flying above us here. Never see, never hear. Yet we constantly have those trails in the sky.
Yeah, I know.
So I think that's
working over by the Cleveland airport when I was in Maryland. I worked closer to BWI, Baltimore Washington International. You'd see them there. When I was where I lived at in Frederick, Maryland, was right up the hill from the local airport. And actually, because of where we were, we used to see the president fly over the head all the time to Camp David. So we never saw anything there like that. I guess my question about that always was, the weather, manipulating the weather aside, my question always was, well, if it's chemicals that are trying to poison us or whatever, wouldn't they also be dumping that on themselves, whoever's in charge of this? Because yeah, you're right, they're all over the country, so they would be taking that in too. And we have a $10 super chat from Tom McNicholas. Thank you very much, Tom. He says, I am a conspiracy. Nice, Tom.
I hear what you're saying on that, but having an ex-husband in the military, I know that there are inoculations for many things, and most of which we are not privy to, and we are not given the option to have. So if you are anybody responsible for putting something like that into the atmosphere, you would also have the capability and the access to any type of inoculation, any type of medication that you would have to take to make you immune or at least less susceptible to it.
Yeah.
So that's just one way to look at it.
Yeah, a couple of comments. Fungi saying, well, the planes are long gone, but the trail remains. And I guess that's the controversy, is that the trails remain for a long period of time. People believe that they should dissipate after a short period of time. They say, well, basically it's forming almost like a little cloud up there, and how long does a cloud take to dissipate? I don't know.
Well, but if we want to be scientific about it, whatever it is in their exhaust that is being expelled, if you want to steer away from chemtrails, whatever it is in their exhaust that's being expelled, how it interacts with the level of humidity in the air in whatever environment it's in would affect exactly how it dissipates and how quickly or how slowly it would dissipate.
Right.
So from a purely scientific standpoint, there very well could be a scientific explanation for it based on the weight of what is being expelled as opposed to the weight of the actual air based on humidity.
Right, and
so
you're
it could
saying
go either way.
Yeah, and you're saying you didn't really see any when you were over there in Ireland and the UK. One, I don't know how they work their airspace over there as opposed to here, but secondly, it's a different climate. Humidity is different.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So, all right. And
it's always possible, but I don't jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still backed off of that one. So I'm really not sure what to think of it. In all honesty, I have not. Like you, I haven't jumped on that. Shadowcat saying, making a comment about me living in Frederick, Maryland for a while, and Shadowcat's from Glen Burnie. Yeah, I was right down the road in Pasadena for a little while too. So, all right, so let's grab another one. Candy Orton saying it's the aliens making it rain too much. That's it. So, I dropped the hat. Anita Ackerman saying iron oxide, aluminum, and other delightful random radioactive cocktails. Yeah, I think there is one in here about radioactive poisoning. So let's see what we grab here. And there it is. Radiation poisoning and Monsanto. Lumped those two together. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of locations around the world where there's been significant radioactive poisoning. Of course, a lot of nuclear testing during the 50s, fallout from that, and there's still been places with a lot of nuclear fallout. Of course, Russia's been riddled with that. And I lumped Monsanto in there since that got brought up the other day. They just had the 265 million, 64 million, something like that lawsuit for the cancer that the guy got, which he believes was from the Roundup. So, what do you think, Vanessa?
Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Well, let's touch on the radioactivity. First thing that comes to mind for me in nuclear activity is Chernobyl. And there is something very interesting about this. Let's go ahead and jump down that rabbit hole, because the first thing we think of when we think of radioactive or nuclear waste or any type of fallout from a situation like that, we think of, okay, well, if you're anywhere in the vicinity and you become exposed or into direct contact with that for any period of time that can be deemed hazardous, that, it can mess with your reproductive organs. Any children that you have could have 9 eyes and 17 fingers and all these different things, and that it should affect wildlife and everything else in the same fashion, correct?
Yeah. Have you seen...
If that is true, then wouldn't it affect any living thing? And when I say living thing, I mean trees, fish, everything else. And if that is the case, why is Chernobyl thriving? That's something that people need to think about. Why is the areas of Chernobyl thriving?
Well,
when we have places where nuclear... What? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, they've opened a lot of Chernobyl back up. And it's been, 30 years? They've opened a lot of it back up. But have you seen that show, Dark Tourist, on Netflix?
No.
Okay. He goes to some of those different areas in the old Soviet Union that got hammered with that nuclear testing that they were doing, and where it really hit home for him, because they went out to some of these ground zero sites, and the Geiger counters going off to like 14 and stuff like that. And he also did this in Japan, where they had the recent spill here a few years ago. But they're all like out in the field. Okay, we're cool. We're having a good time. Where it really hit home for them is when they went to a local orphanage to see the effect that it had on the children that lived there. And just the deformities were just crazy.
The thing is, though, is you can find similar situations in third world countries who have had absolutely no radioactive or nuclear active activity. You know, a lot of that stuff can be caused by medications used during pregnancy. A lot of people don't realize that. They can be caused by inbreeding. I hate to say, but it's true. You know, when you're talking about high levels of incest, they can be caused by lack of medical care. You know, throughout time, and there's many different reasons for that. But I'm not saying that that's why they were caused, but it can play a very serious part in all of that. We were having to deal with in the land that my ex-husband and I owned. We were having to deal with possible poisoning of the land because we had well water. And one of the things that they say to look for first is frogs. Because out of anything on your land, the very first thing that's going to show any sign of poisoning or modification of DNA and causing extra eyes or extra limbs, frogs will show it first.
So if
we had to learn.
If you see a frog with 3 glowing eyes, then that's probably a problem.
Probably a problem. Multiple, and this is the one thing that they told us, because we had so many people trying to put oil pumps on our land, and still trying to this day to do it to my ex-husband, and we just kept saying no amount of money was worth it when we have well water and a child, you know. But they said don't look for the frogs that have 3 legs, because they could have lost one in a lawn mowing accident. They said look for the ones that have 5.
Yeah.
You know. Look for the extra, not the missing, and that's kind of the kicker. And that was the one thing that, just based on my recent research of Chernobyl, what really surprised me was you can find some pictures of some, you know, animal disturbance and modification in DNA and mishaps and malformations, but for the most part, it's thriving. And I just. It makes one wonder. I understand certain areas being closed off.
There's a number that still are.
There's places in this world that are never to be inhabited again based on that activity.
Oh yeah.
But
at least for like a couple 100,000 years.
Why? But is that really why they can't be inhabited?
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of places that are closed off that they say are no longer accessible just because they don't want people going into the area. There's plenty of that, sure.
Or heaven only knows what they've got underground.
Right.
What better way to make sure that nobody gets on top of land that you have something hidden under than telling them that it's radioactive?
Yeah, well,
think about that.
Oh, I get that, but there are some of these places they're going out to. Like I said, the Geiger counter is going off to 14, where 0.2 is deemed the highest that you want to go. Yeah. So
true.
It happens. So
it's again one of those little conspiracy theories.
Yeah, of course, and that's what we're talking about, the conspiracies. So now Monsanto, and now Shauna actually worked for them for a brief period of time. So I'm going to read you her comment. From earlier. She says, I worked for them for a brief stint. I couldn't live with myself after having my bare skin exposed to one of their seeds that was chemically enhanced. I blistered. I mean, that's true. She was working with the seeds. You're supposed to wear these gloves, and somehow, it got onto her skin. And she was just, like all red and blistered and all this stuff. And this is from the chemical that they're putting on the seeds. And their idea is that they're, genetically modifying these seeds so that they can, grow them, bigger, stronger, more of them, and that sort of thing. But if the stuff that they're putting on that burns the skin to the touch, and that chemical is going into the ground, then you're eventually going to be ingesting that chemical. They're trying to say, oh no, it's safe, it's it's better for this and that and the other thing, but there's a lot of people that believe that their cancer is being derived from these genetically modified products.
I agree completely, and I can actually go one step further on that. Used to be you could pretty much eat whatever you want.
Oh, did we just lose Vanessa?
No, the fat. Huh? Did you lose me?
We lost you there for a second. You're back.
Am I there?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
It used to be like, you could eat whatever you wanted and life was good and there were no issues. Then they started to put hormones and antibiotics in food. Now, we have hormones in our body and we take antibiotics when we're sick, so of course they're going to tell you there is nothing wrong with that. It's completely healthy. But what it does, this is true, I've worked with kids for 18 years in dentistry, and I'm here to tell you, because of the level of hormones and antibiotics that have been placed in the food to supposedly keep the livestock well and to allow them to grow bigger and stronger so they can get more meat out of them, that stuff does not cook out.
Right.
So every bit of antibiotics, every bit of hormones that are going into these animals are going into your body. There is absolutely nothing you can do about it unless you buy the all-natural, non-additive, as far as that goes, type of meats. So now you have 8-year-olds with full breasts.
Right.
You have boys going into puberty at 8 or 9. You have children who their voices are changing at 10. Little boys' voices are changing at 10. Their psychological structure and emotional structure is being completely altered because of the rush of hormones being put in their body continuously. We're sicker. We're fatter. We have no attention span. Who benefits from that?
Well,
People wake up.
Yeah, it's just the it's become a different type of corporation. Yes, they're selling more product, which is their idea, but it is damaging us internally at that time. And X-Group Home Kid, at the same time, X-Group Home Kid is saying rice, corn, and wheat farmers have all sought damages after finding their crops contaminated with GMO seeds that were not supposed to leave the test area. So, yeah, I mean, there's a number of farmers who would prefer to stay away from that, and they're getting seeds that have it in there anyway.
Yep. Oh yeah, but it's all a way to control things.
Yeah.
You know, if our kids, and I'm here to tell y'all, okay, I've worked in pediatric dentistry for almost 18 years, and there have been companies that I've worked for where over 70% of the children under the age of 12 were on meds.
Right.
For the head. 70%. Now, here's the kicker. What a lot of people don't realize is a lot of those meds aren't supposed to be given to kids under the age of 18.
Oh, hell no. No.
So why is 70% of the patients that I used to have under the age of 12 on them?
No,
so
they're creating a dependency that they will have for
Exactly.
the rest of their life, and that's more money in their pockets. Those big pharmaceutical companies.
Like I said, we're fatter, we're sicker, and we have no attention span, which is it's turning us into cattle.
Yeah, well, and it's really sad because that industry, 100 years ago, they were legitimately trying to find cures for a lot of these different diseases. They accomplished a lot of good things there, but then they realized, oh crap, we can make a shit ton of money doing this, and it has turned into something very, very different.
Absolutely. Well, now they're trying to bring out lab grown meat. Get that shit away from me.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to eat lab grown meat. It's not meat. I don't know what the hell's in it. I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah, plant grown meat. Well, in was it China that they're using that mealworm? I wouldn't even touch that. I don't know. Kathy Cillian.
Not so much. I'm not a monkey.
No. Kathy Cilliento is saying, why is it that no other countries will use Monsanto? Here in America, it's okay for Monsanto to kill us. Yeah.
Because for us, it's all about money. And one of the best examples of that is, y'all know those little, those little bounty walker chairs that everybody puts their kids in and doesn't think twice about it? Those are made overseas, right? Do y'all know that they're not legal to be sold overseas? They're not legal to be sold in the country they're made in.
Yeah.
Because they misshape and malform your hip joints. But we can sell them over here and stick our kids in them.
Yep. There's Donna Gorton. Donna Gorton says, I had a kid on my caseload once given a psych med clearly made for adults that led to an 11-year-old attempting suicide because of it. I mean, that's just...
Yep.
That's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. All right, we have to move on to another subject. I mean, this is one that we could do a whole episode on this. I mean, there's 2-hour documentaries that are made on this subject. So you got a lot more in here to cover. So let's move on to another here. All right, what do we have? We have dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, here we go. I think this is one a lot of people have been waiting for. Celebrity deaths. So we have Prince, Marilyn Monroe, Natalie Wood, Sonny Bono. You could even throw like Michael Jackson in there. There's a lot of different people you could lump into this one. So even someone like the rash of like grunge singers suddenly gone. Chris Cornell. So celebrity deaths. So like with with Prince, it's the what was it? What was this? He thought he was taking Vicodin, and it was fentanyl that was actually in there, which however it ended up in there, because he was seeking prescription, or he wasn't seeking prescriptions. I guess he didn't actually have a prescription, but he's getting Vicodin to help with some pain, and this fentanyl ended up in there instead. What's that?
I said fentanyl.
Fentanyl, yeah. Yeah. So why it was that instead of the Vicodin, we don't know. Of course, Marilyn Monroe. There's the whole JFK connection with that. I know JFK was another conspiracy theory in there. Natalie Wood, was she murdered by Robert Wagner? I mean, what's that?
Hoover had Marilyn Monroe killed.
You think it was Hoover?
Yep.
I believe she was murdered. I don't believe it was overdose.
No, it wasn't an overdose. It was Hoover.
Yeah.
JFK did not have her killed.
No, I never necessarily thought it was JFK that had her killed. Certainly, someone in the administration. She knew too much. So
yeah.
And what was the comment up here I missed? So Tim Schoen saying Prince's plane landed at a local hospital to me before he died. Interesting. So like Natalie Wood, did Robert Wagner kill her?
She was killed. Yes, she was. There was one other person on the boat. I can never remember his name. Oh, good gravy! I can't remember his name. But there was
Walken.
It's
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, Christopher Walken. But there was a not a love triangle, but Robert Wagner was very jealous.
Yeah.
Very jealous.
Yeah.
And it wasn't premeditated. It wasn't intentional, but it did happen. And he did not do anything to stop it.
Well, I mean, they'd been drinking and who knows what else that night. And so
it wasn't
not a good
premeditated
mix.
And it wasn't intentional, but it did happen.
Yeah. You could.
It was an accident, but it was an accident. It could have been fixed, but honestly, he probably would have died too.
Yeah, you could say crime of passion, maybe.
Yeah, you could. You could comfortably say that.
Yeah. So
most definitely.
Yeah, Karen Whitaker saying Robert Wagner had a temper. That's what a lot of people say. Yeah.
He was very, very jealous.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing. He didn't have a reason to be. She wasn't doing anything. She wasn't doing anything. So the circumstances that led to it happening were all right here.
Well, yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people go there where it all ends up in their head. And then, yeah. Seen that happen many times.
Yeah.
So Tom McNicholas is making a
exactly.
point that the case is back open. Yeah, there was some, I guess late breaking evidence here over the past few months where the case is now open again. So,
Good.
And so Sonny Bono was brought up here too. I forget who actually mentioned that one, but that one where it was allegedly a skiing accident. He was making some waves about some drug running with Central America and I think South America as well. So a lot of people speculate that he was murdered over that, and that he was actually, blunt force trauma with some sort of weapon instead of this him. He was supposed to be a very good skier instead of him just colliding into a tree.
I like to ski. I'm not too bad, although it's been years since I've done it. Trust me, it's not hard to run into a tree. That one,
no, but
I'm not feeling right off the bat that it had anything to do with that, because if there's one thing, just because I'm fascinated by it, one thing that I love to study is narcotic crimes and stuff like that. One thing cartels don't give a shit about is trying to make something look like an accident. If anything, they prefer to send a message. So, and if you make something look like an accident, no message was sent.
I think there's been a lot of murders made to look like an accident.
Not so much by cartels. They don't care. But if it's somebody on...
Oh, no. Not the cartels. Not the cartels. No. The government.
Okay.
That's what he was looking into, was he thought that there were government officials that were coordinating this drug running from Central and South America to the U.S. And so it would have been
totally
drug cartels.
Possible,
it would have been the U.S. politicians that had them done in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally possible then. I don't know enough about it to speak with any authority, but yeah, totally possible then.
Yeah. And that's about as little as I know about it.
It isn't unheard of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it isn't unheard of to be a very good skier and still have an accident. Happens all the time. It happens to Olympic skiers.
Well, sure.
So...
Greg Rankin is throwing out, some say Lady Di was killed by the royal family. What do you think?
No. That was, in my opinion, again, I am not an authority, but I've been asked this on shows with Noreen when I've remote viewed. I would be very surprised if any evidence ever came out that was a fact. Personally, I do feel, and from what I have been told, in my head, that it was truly a tragic accident. And the main reason for that isn't because she was loved so much, but those boys were. And nobody in the royal family would have taken the mother away from those boys.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's what I'm told. I could be proven wrong, but that's what I'm being told.
Yeah, it's... That location where she died, I guess, has been used before for that sort of thing. So maybe that's where people draw that comparison.
She was so loved by the public that it's totally natural, and it only makes sense to want to have somebody to blame. And I get it. But I do not feel that they were responsible.
Okay.
And I'd say it if I did.
All right, we got two things here. So Pamela, we'll go ahead and discuss that just after this one mention, and I know it's in here, but since you're talking about it, we'll get to. But Jen mentioned Tupac. We talked about Tupac in the preview, so you just want to recap on that real quick, and then we'll get to Pamela's comment here.
Yeah, he's not dead.
Right,
he's not dead.
Right, you don't believe he's dead, and there's other people who believe that as well.
No.
He's still alive somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and we talked a little bit about where I think that there's a conspiracy with the Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore, where it seems like every once in a great while they come up with something new from him that was lost in the archive or was from when he was a kid or something like that. Oh, here we found this. Here's some new music from him. Like every once in a great while. And so,
exactly.
Yeah. So
that's I believe that he just wanted to get away, and those who were closest to him know. And I think that the reason that things get discovered, like you said, are a way to keep, royalties coming in, money coming in, interest coming in, because it helps out whomever was left behind and who might benefit from his estate, and who also might be able to funnel money to him so that he can live. The thing is, I think it's so hard for people to think about something like that, because they're like, well, he was famous. Why would he want to do that? I'm going to be real honest, okay? When you're well known, and I mean even on a small level, boundaries get lost and privacy becomes a thing of the past. And being able to do things you want to do and have some type of anonymity, it goes by the wayside. And that's even on the smallest scale, okay? And sometimes it can become quite hard to deal with. Imagine that times a million. Imagine not being able to walk out of your house without being recognized by 100 people on the street immediately, and having absolutely no way to protect yourself from that type of energy. Would you want it? Think about that.
Depends on the person. Some people like to bask in that sort of thing, and other people just don't. I mean, he might have been one of those that just really doesn't. He might just, hey, I want to do my music, and that's it.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Okay.
He was way smarter than people give him credit for.
Yeah. So Pamela Rainey is mentioning the fires in California, and this is an interesting comment. She says, I watched a video of a fireman saying fires in California are military lasers. How do houses burn to slabs and trees aren't scorched? Well, trees don't get scorched from houses being burned to slabs if you build a fire line. Like with the goldenrod, we know that was an arson fire, but we also know that they had built this fire line so that the trees wouldn't burn down. So military lasers is kind of interesting, though. So I don't know if that was some supposed testing or what have you. What's the feeling you get, Vanessa?
Well, I mean, again, I'm going to lean toward the side of anything is possible. Do I believe that mass destruction is what they're looking for, and they would be willing to cause that amount of grief for people? Not so much. Not so much. Not in such areas, knowing that people are going to be in such great danger. I don't believe that is a very good possibility. And people forget how easy it is, especially in a dry environment, to start a fire. Here in Oklahoma, when we're having fire warning days, you can toss a lit cigarette out your window, and if it hits some of this dry grass, you can have an entire miles and miles of fields go up in smoke
in like no time,
in the span of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No time. It really is that quick. So if it's been exceptionally dry and somebody is careless, that can start, and it can be unbelievably difficult to contain. Does that mean that there couldn't be some type of involvement in it? Not saying there isn't. I'm just saying that, especially when it starts to lean towards high populated areas, and when those high populated areas probably have military personnel in them, I can't see it. Yeah.
Well, and Pamela's stating that there were 18 fires all started at the same time. Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer for that. In military lasers, I don't know.
Well, no, we're not saying it's not arson.
Yeah. It could very well be some sort of...
Not saying it's not arson, just don't think it's a military.
Yeah. All right, let's grab another one from the hat. right, so what do we got? Controlling witchy shit.
That's great. That's great. Was that Tammy Sifford, or was that Donna Gordon?
I can't remember which one it was. You started talking a little bit about it last night, and yeah. So yeah, you made a good point with it last night about the control of especially women back during the day, and some men when it came to that sort of talent.
Yeah, for the most part. And I mean, it even goes back to in certain cases where women were called witches because they were midwives, and it was infringing on newly acquired, business or possible business for new doctors. So, a woman who was a midwife would be called a witch because she was taking business away from somebody, who wore a lab coat and carried a leather bag, never mind the fact that you were less likely to die from a midwife helping you during childbirth than you were from a physician back in that time. That having been said, I think that there are many instances and many situations where those who have certain skills, a certain skill set, or certain abilities are not only targeted, but they're watched, and in some cases quite possibly institutionalized, because it's real hard to pull the wool over people's eyes who are enlightened.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying that those who are enlightened or those who are hard to fool are all going to be whistleblowers. But if there's one thing that they don't want, it's for anyone to educate en masse. Well, heaven forbid people think for themselves.
Yeah, I have a bit of a different angle to take that. And you mentioned last night how you were approached, because I mentioned how CIA, government has had programs using remote viewers because they want to be able to spy on the enemy. Now, they also turn around and, of course, scientists and the educated community and all that will perpetuate that all those things that you are able to do, Vanessa, they say just aren't possible. But yeah, here's the government utilizing these people. I want to say in secret, but we all know what happened, so it wasn't really so much in secret. So, I mean, how do you handle that from your side of it, where you're basically getting conflicting messages here? You're either accepting it because here's the government utilizing remote viewers, or you're not, because on the flip side, they keep saying, no, it's not real.
Well, two things. And for those who say that the government's never been involved with that, educate yourself, okay? Mm-hmm. Because they were part and parcel of the invention of Kirlian photography, which actually photographs your aura, and that was used to determine the effects of psychic vampirism on an unwilling person. So, yeah, just so you know. And my other answer for that, and it's honestly a real simple answer, and we've talked about this before on the show. It's all perception. It is all perception, and what people believe and what they don't believe. And the best example I have for that is I worked with a girl who was asking me questions about her son. And I was telling her what I was being told. Because it was, and I normally wouldn't do that, but this was a dire situation. And she truly needed help. And I was telling her what she needed to look for, what I was being told, this, that, and the other. And she just poo-pooed it away. I was crazy. I was doing the devil's work. Well, a couple of weeks later, I guess she went to church, and another woman told her the exact same thing I said, but said she got the message from God. Almost verbatim, same fucking thing I said. The whole thing. And she was just like, it was like, the heavens opened up and the sun came out and the cherubs were singing, and I looked at her and I said, but I told you the same thing. And she says, well, yeah, but she said God told her. I said, oh.
Just because it was God. Right.
Yeah. So it was who supplied the message, not the messenger that you're saying is a devil worshiper. Oh, okay. All right. So as long as we're clear.
Yeah. A lot of people put it into their head that it's acceptable, to receive it from one source, but from another, no. Because it can somehow only get around one particular thing. So
exactly. Same situation.
Yeah. From Pungai Fungi. Yeah, from Pungai Fungi, has remote viewing really worked for the government? Yeah. I mean, they've had those programs since what, the 50s or 60s, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
mid 50s, I believe.
Mid 50s, yeah. Yeah, they were looking at ways to be able to, it was the Cold War, so they were looking for alternative ways to be able to spy on the Russians. So, all right.
Well, I mean, let's face it, y'all. Remote viewing ain't that hard. I mean, it's really not. It's not that hard.
I'm seeing Vanessa in her living room.
I know,
right? All right. Let's grab another one here. JFK. What do you think?
Hoover.
Hey.
Hoover. Actually, Johnson. More Johnson.
Yeah, I've always thought Lyndon B. Johnson. I always thought Lyndon B. Johnson. He got into power and he got his war. The whole war machine was cranked up.
Yes. Yeah, so. JFK did not want it. And here, I mean, the fascinating thing about it is anything that had to do with the JFK assassination was sealed for 75 years. It's not sealed now. You know why? Anyone that had anything to do with it's dead.
Yeah.
So nobody can be held accountable. So if he was assassinated by somebody not in the government, why would it be mandatory to seal the records until everybody was dead? Bueller?
Right.
Bueller? Anyone? It's not necessary.
Well, I mean, there was so much.
If you got who you say assassinated, then what's the fucking point?
Right. Yeah, and then of course Bobby Kennedy. I mean, that whole line they did away with them all. Mm-hmm. So Tammy Heitzman is asking. I mean, the show's going by quick getting to these, and we still got a few left in here. Tammy Heitzman is asking, what about 9/11? Let's throw it out there real quick.
Do I have to answer that?
It's up to you whether you want to answer.
This is what I will say. This is what I will say. I watched the planes fly into the tower.
Mm-hmm.
Watched it as it happened. My now ex-husband had just gotten back from overseas, had been home not long at all, and I called him from my work as the second plane hit the tower. And I said, you need to get up, because he was on leave. Said, you need to get up, you need to get dressed, you need to get to base now. And he said, what are you talking about? What's going on? And I said, just trust me, just get up, get dressed, get to the base now. I didn't see him for 3 weeks. Keep in mind, the base was 15 minutes away from our house. Okay? What I saw while that happened, including that day, gas prices going up to almost $7 a gallon.
Yeah, everybody took advantage of that.
True story. And the oil companies having the highest profit margins in decades while that was going on. And what I heard from our soldiers when they came back, dear friends of mine, and what I have researched since, setup doesn't begin to cover it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
setup doesn't begin.
I don't know how deep or to what extent in specific people that were involved. I'm not going to get into all of that, but airline pilots will tell you that those commercial jetliners, even if they went to some flight school and got some training, they are not, those terrorists are not flying those commercial jetliners. They may have been on the plane, but they did not fly those planes into the towers. There's no way
At
that
least
they
one of them trained here in Oklahoma.
Right. I know. I remember that.
At least one of them trained here in Oklahoma.
But yeah, but that flight school out there, they're not learning how to fly a commercial airliner out there. So, yeah.
And
there's a lot
I will just say this: it's just like what we were talking about with JFK. There are always those in power who believe we need a war.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and there are those who fight that war and come back and let you know. Now, this is not my ex-husband. My ex-husband and I never talked about it. Okay? But keep in mind, I've had a lot of patience. Got a lot of friends in the military. And to hear what they were protecting while they were over there is not what you think.
Oh no. I've talked to several as well, and a lot of what was going on there.
Explain to me why oil needs to be protected.
Right. Well, and a lot of what was going on there in Afghanistan was to basically create a base in Afghanistan to thwart anything going on with it. Was about Iran. All that stuff on Afghanistan was in Iran, to basically have a base there to keep a check on Iran.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So it's just like John said the other night. Not everything is what it seems.
Yeah.
Educate yourself.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we're getting down. We got about 10 minutes left in the show. We got a few left here, and there's people are throwing other stuff there in the chat. So let's try to knock these few out real quick. So Athens, Ohio. That's the cemeteries in the as a pentagram. So there, if you look at a map in the way the cemeteries are done up around the town, it makes the shape of a pentagram. And of course, that's where they had the old insane asylum. And it's now called the Ridges. It's a part of Ohio University. So there's a lot, and there's supposed to be a lot of haunted locations there. But I guess the conspiracy would be, are the cemeteries done up as a pentagram? I mean, they kind of look like it on the map.
Well, again, let's educate for a second. A pentagram doesn't indicate evil.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Matter of fact, there are very specific differences between a standard pentagram, okay, and one that could be used by worship something else. And that's I'm stuck. There we go. And that's the interesting thing. Could they be in that shape? Sure, they could. Just like Nine Lady Stone Circle. You can look and that's in England. You can look all over the internet, not find anything dictating that this is what it is, but Nine Lady Stone Circle, where they asked for me by name on EVP Live, is a pentagram. It's
right.
Just a place of power. That's all it is. It's a place of power. Could it have been used, the center of the areas, could that have been used as a place of power? Absolutely. Does it indicate and necessarily mean it's something negative? Absolutely not. But that energy comes from whoever used it at any given time, not from those who placed it there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I have
a pentagram on my back.
Right, and that's been used for thousands and thousands of years. I know there's a representation there with the sacred feminine. It's when people have taken something that is sacred like that, and I guess when people use it for quote unquote devil worship, they flip it upside down and all that stuff.
And it's elongated point.
I mean, shoot, Motley Crue's original album art for the Shout at the Devil album was a inverted pentagram, and so that's pop culture's played a lot into it as well.
The inverted with the elongated point is supposed to symbolize a goat's head.
Right.
But y'all, I walk around all day long. I got a pentagram on my back, on my right shoulder. I'm one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet unless you piss me off. So, I mean, I'm not walking around with evil on me. If anything, I'm walking around exceptionally protected.
Yep.
So
Fungi is mentioning that
it is what it.
Yeah, Fungi is mentioning that Scariest Places on Earth did a segment on that. Yeah, it was the very first episode of Scariest Places on Earth. It was the first segment they ever did. So I really liked that show. Yes, and Tammy, there's that Motley Crue reference, of course. So we've got a couple more here. All right, Let's see what we have left. If I can open it. Helltown. So
now you've been there. I haven't been there. So what's your view on that?
I've been there. We've talked about it on this channel at length. So since we only have a few minutes left, I will refer people out to the videos that we already have on Helltown here. But just real quick summation. So it not only happened in Ohio, it happened in other places around the country where they were trying to, the government was basically taking back away from the citizens land in order to make national parks. It's just in the 70s, they suddenly decided that we're losing, our land to, industry and all this stuff. We need to make sure we reclaim some for national parks. The thing is where they did this in Ohio, it was, small town area, and there's, a little bit of commercial development, but we're talking like small mom and pop shops. And they basically, it was like eminent domain over all of these houses. They gave them an option they gave them some options, but they all resulted in they were going to lose their home. And in a number of these cases, they would come up with like any and every excuse to just, boot the people out of their house. Like, well, this doesn't meet, our criteria, so you're out. So you can go there. Most of the houses are now gone. It's called Helltown because everything was like abandoned very quickly. It went from the 70s on into the 80s. And even a few years ago, there were still some abandoned houses sitting there. Most of them are cleared out now. You can walk up and down Stanford Road, which is, just kind of creepy and desolate, or you can walk up and down the towpath, which a lot of people, ride their bikes and jog and all that stuff. And it has the lock system, the old lock system up and down the Erie Canal that basically connected Lake Erie with the Ohio River. But here, that it just said it disconnected again, reconnecting. What the hell's going on? Okay, weird. I don't know what's going on. I keep getting this notification that's disconnecting. It says it's reconnected now. Shit. Okay. In any case, real quick, and then we'll get to the end of the show because we're at the end of it anyway, and we got one more to cover. If you look at these signs and you look and see what it says there, there's a gas pipeline that goes through there, and there's a transcontinental cable. Two main pieces of infrastructure that just are going right through there. And for me, it's going to be more the gas pipeline more than anything. Now, people, speculate, well, aliens and a chemical spill and all this stuff. There was never a chemical spill. People say something about an alien base. I don't believe there's an alien base there. But booting people out, the eminent domain to, lay this cable and especially the gas pipeline, yeah, I believe they would boot people out for that.
No, I agree. Fuck, they've done it for less.
Yep.
I mean, really. They have. And plus, like, look at Flint, Michigan. How many years has it been since they've had clean water?
Right. Yeah, Flint is ridiculous.
Yeah, clean water.
Yeah, kind of basic in America these days.
Years.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost 5 years since they've had clean water.
Yep. So Tom McNicholas thinks that the government is shutting us down here. Nice.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, conspiracy. All right, we'll get to our last one here, and then there was another one that was thrown out there in the chat that we can do. We can wrap it in a couple minutes here. So Nikola Tesla. So we talked a bit about him last night. Was that all of them? Yeah, it was all of them. So we talked a bit about him last night, and the technology that he developed. He developed a lot of different things, but he was wanting to develop free wireless electricity, and he had it. He had it. Of course, his financial backers like J.P. Morgan, they wanted to make money, so they weren't interested in anything free. And then when Tesla died, of course, the government came and seized as much of his paperwork and gadgets as they could. And there's still a lot of that has not been released to the public. And I mentioned it last night. The things that have surfaced, people are calling the Tesla cache, these bits and pieces that are still out there. So a lot of people speculate that the technology that he was working on and he had developed would supersede a lot of technology that we have in place today. So, and of course, he developed, alternating current, AC, which is, a big backbone of our society today. So, yeah, I believe he was working on a lot more stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is it's not difficult to make the leap. That of course they would do that. That of course, they would want to go in there and do that, and it's an even smaller leap to realize that it will only be released or used or shown to the masses in due time and when they feel it's necessary. It's just one of those things that unfortunately, we're not privy to. We're not part of that group that controls that. And as we go further in society and further in time, we become less and less likely to be a part of that group and able to make any changes based on how it's been set up and all the things that we've talked about previously in this show. Everything is setting us up to just be the people that sits here and goes, okay.
Right.
Okay. Whatever you say, boss. Okay. They keep us fat, stupid, and lazy. That's the whole purpose. If that's how you set up your society and you set them up completely dependent upon you, then that's how you stay in power.
Well, yeah, it's all about control. It's all about control. Any of this. We are, before it was the church, you would control the people through the church. Well, people have been going away from the church for a while now, so it's not religion anymore that's going to control people. So we mentioned it earlier, the pharmaceuticals, the drugs. We're going to make people dependent on all that stuff. And of course, any of our energy, we talked food earlier, so any of that sort of stuff, that's how they're going to control us, is through our other resources, because religion doesn't work so much anymore.
Well, and people will come up with the argument is that, those who do fight the government and butt heads and try to, take somewhat of a stand, even if it's a silly one for whatever reason, be like, well, how could people listen to the government? How could they not know that they're doing all these things? But you bring up an excellent point with the church, especially with the Catholic Church. And to the Catholics out there, I'm not knocking you. I know Mike's got nuns in his family, Yep. But what people don't know is Catholic Church, the popes, hundreds of years ago, used to buy little kids, dip them in gold dust, do all kinds of absolutely horrific things to them with money given by poor parishioners.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah. The Vatican's a bank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, big time. Big time. What is that show? I think it's still on Netflix. If anybody wants to really understand, it's called is it Maxima Mea Culpa?
I haven't seen it.
It's look up Mea Culpa, and hopefully the Netflix documentary will pop up. I believe it was Netflix. I highly recommend everybody watch that. Have your tissues. And that's not to down any religion. It's just to let you know what's going on out there. Just like the story that just came out about Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Did you hear about that?
What's going on?
I think it said the abuse of over 300 kids has been hidden for years and years and years. Same that happens with levels of government. We're being spoon-fed what they feel like we should know.
Oh, of course.
And put in situations that are detrimental to us.
Yeah. And whenever you see these, big splashy headlines and they get the public all riled up about, something specific, look around at what else is going on. That's usually a distraction from other things that are going on. So look at the smaller print. Look at the other bits of news that may be out there, because it's those smaller things that are usually the bigger deal, and what they're showing as the big deal is really a distraction from everything else that's going on.
Don't look at the front page. Look at page 13.
Yeah.
Okay? Look at what's hidden. Look at what doesn't have the italicized, bold print headline. That's what you need to be looking for in order to educate yourself.
Yep.
People need to do it. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are theories. You know, they're theories, and some are based in fact, and some are trying to educate. Yes, a lot of them are truth.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and get to the shout-outs, because we have gone over our hour. And, you know, any number of these we could have spent an entire episode on. So
absolutely,
we may have to do that one of these days. Well, it was nice to just take a topic, run with it. It wasn't really a topic, it was several, but you know, your conspiracy theories are things that you guys wanted to talk about. And you know, we got to the ones that you guys submitted, a couple of them down in chat. I wish we could have gotten to more, but we only have an hour for this particular show. So yeah, people down in the chat, or Fungi, Pamela Rainey, are saying, yeah, let's do another.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. We should definitely do another. So let's go ahead and get to the shout-outs first. Let's take a look at the Super Chats. Super Chat Superstar Tom McNicholas. Thank you very much, Tom. And Tom says he is a conspiracy.
Me too, Tom.
Yeah. So thank you very much to Shauna, our chat shenanigator the chat down there, and Donna Gorton, our Cheshire Cat in the house. All right, let's go with the shout-outs here. So we have, there's Jen. Hey, Jen, how you doing? There's Karen Whitaker. Hey, Karen, thanks for joining us tonight. There's Zippy Davis, one of our Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. So let's get to those real quick. Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. We have Tom McNicholas, Beat 3 Aerospace, Zippy Davis, BD Flint, Pamela Queen, and Andrew Cox. Thank you guys very much for being Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. And so we have many other Patreon patrons as well. You can check that out, patreon.com/Haunted Road Media. Also, big shout outs to, let's see, we got Shadowcat down there. We also have Candy Orton is in the house. Denise Pridemore. Hey, Denise. Good to see you. She said, interesting show. And she makes some great apple butter. Finally got a chance to try it last night. Let's see. We have Caleb on. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Fran Molino, thank you very much for joining us again. Luli Tubi, thank you as well. There's Dawn, Spooky Spectacular. Pamela Rainey, thank you very much. There's Katie Palmer. How you doing, Katie? There is the Haglin. And Tammy Heitzman, she says, so let's do an all-nighter sometime.
Oh, God.
Wow. I mean, we could just do conspiracy theories all night long. I mean, just pick one and just run and keep going and pick up another, you know. Sean Oldsmith, thank you. Joined us from Australia tonight. And Robert White, thank you as well. Also from Australia. There's Cheryl Midkiff. Hey, Cheryl. Good to see you tonight. Imla Buddha 61, thank you very much. Fungi, thanks for joining us again. No penguins here in the studio tonight. There's Chipper Terry, thanks for joining us tonight. Chipper, Haunted Road Media's Fairy Queen, Diane Hilbert, thank you as always. Let's see, we also had Mickey Dole, thank you, Mickey, for joining us again tonight. Let's see, who else did we have? There's Andrew Cox. Good to see you, Andrew. Sophia Fraze, thanks for joining us tonight. Really do appreciate that. Who else? And all right, we had a lot of people in the chat, which is great. There's Beat 3 Airspace, and all right, I'm going to scroll back down. You guys had a lot of chat going, which was pretty damn awesome. All right. Anybody else down in here that I didn't pick before? There's JoJo B. JoJo, good to see you. And I think that is going to be about it. All right. So thank you guys very much for joining us for this show, Edge of the Rabbit Hole, on conspiracy theories, your conspiracy theories. Up next on Inside the Upside Down, Shauna and I are going to be talking about ley lines. So very, very cool stuff.
Woohoo!
And let's see, Sophia Frey saying, is Dustin in the house? Did I miss Dustin? Dustin Samario? Maybe I did. And there's Tim Schoen. I don't want to miss Tim either. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about ley lines. So come check it out. We're going to switch it out. So, I mean, most of the switching out is always down here on the computer anyways, as I, switch out all the titles and descriptions and all that. But we'll turn on the blue lights. Shauna's going to come into the studio, and we're going to talk about ley lines and standing stones and all that very, very cool stuff. So, all right, everybody. Yeah. All right, everybody. See you in a little while.
Bye.